What is up, everyone? Coffee break is here. Who's ready for some Monday Night Football? The Niners this past week had joint practices with the Denver Broncos, who they will face on Monday. But let's start with how the Niners have been looking in camp. The Niners had a solid practice on Friday. A lot of Bronco reporters, and Niner reporters for that matter, say the Niners carried the practice with their intensity. Saturday was a bit of a different story with Denver matching the Niners in intensity, but it did lead to a so-called fight, which had two Bronco players kicked out of practice. But the key takeaway from here is that the Niners are coming with energy, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I saw it in the first preseason opener too, against the Cowboys. Those guys were flying around trying to make plays, and I expect them to do the same this Monday. Broncos are in a bit of a transition year. The guy we all know, Vic Fangio, is the head coach, and he's had his focus on defense, as he should. He's a defensive guy. He has inherited a really good defensive lineman. Great matchup for the Niners, who seen their fair share of good defensive linemen in camp. I'm interested to see how this offensive line holds up. Mike Person gave everyone a little bit of a scare with an injury that doesn't seem to be too serious. He's day-to-day, likely will not play in this game. Jimmy Garoppolo is expected to play a little bit in this game. I am excited to see how he performs since, of course, the injury. The ideal situation is to have Jimmy march down that football field and throw a touchdown pass. But for me, as long as he's walking out of the field healthy, I don't really care about his performance. Go in there and get your feet wet. That's all this really is. Linebackers are setting the tone. We all know the defense will start with the boys up front, but the guys behind them are just as important. The linebacker group is a pleasant surprise to see. They're just stepping up and being leaders. Quan is fitting right in, though it is still unclear how he's been performing in camp. But Warner has looked like a general out there in that football field, and I expect big things from him this year. They'll be going up against a very talented tight end, Noah Fant, who was the Broncos' first round pick in this year's draft. Looking forward to see that matchup. I think it's good work for the linebackers. Now on to Marquise Goodwin, who has finally showed up in camp. He's looked solid in practice according to some reports, and seeing some highlights this past weekend, he looks healthy. Good sign for him to get going in Monday's game. That is if he plays. Now this preseason game is another opportunity for players to make a statement to stay in this roster. I look at Jordan Matthews, who hasn't stood out, but he hasn't been given the same opportunities as everyone else. He's been very consistent, and I can see him getting some more touches in this game. Very interested to see how he can shake this entire wide receiver group if he just balls out in the next few preseason games. I mean, that's putting a lot of pressure on other guys. Another guy to keep an eye out for is tight end Ross Dwelley, backup tight end. Dude can just flat out catch the ball. I don't know about his blocking, maybe questionable, maybe not, but man, nothing gets past him. Another guy who has been consistent all of camp. And in my eyes, he's a lock to be the backup tight end. It hurts to say this, but Selleck time might be running out. He's hurt right now and can't see him staying in this roster if he can't contribute. Getting ahead of myself right now, but yeah, man, I love this kid coming out. And on to my last guy I want to talk about is Richie James. Look, there was a reason he was with the starters last game. He was given that opportunity, and I felt he didn't make the most out of it. I need a bounce back game from him and Bourne for that matter. I mean, I just look at Jordan Matthews. He's in the rear view waiting for that opportunity. So those boys need to step it up and need to step it up quickly. In this league, nothing is guaranteed. So if someone is presented that opportunity, they may never look back. So it's just something to keep an eye out for and see how this whole wide receiver group falls into place. But to wrap it up, I expect the Niners to come out with energy, defense swarming to the football, and the Niners to come out with a victory. Offense running the football heavy. The Niners, in my opinion, are just the better team. They have more depth, even with all these injuries. I expect both Mullins and CJ to play well. I think CJ will be the first one up and then Mullins. So we'll see. But all right, guys, I am done talking. Let me get your players to watch in this game against the Denver Broncos. Also, here are some comments left in my previous video. Go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already. Season's about to start, so don't want to miss any of my videos. Thank you all for watching, and as always, we'll see you on the next one, guys. Peace.